U.S. politicians are currently pushing back against Nippon Steel acquisition of U.S. Steel, citing business that they do in China. So we talked about this a couple months ago. Nippon Steel is the fourth largest steel producer in the world based out of Japan. They are massive and on the technological front end of the steel industry. U.S. Steel is what? 34th largest in the world?
Yep.
Tiny compared to Nippon Steel.
Yep.
And they've suffered a lot of financial troubles over the past couple of years. So Nippon saw this as an opportunity, and they're like, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to go in, we're going to give a really good offer to U.S. Steel, we're going to buy that company, and then we're going to invest a shit ton of money into the U.S. steel manufacturing plants that are in the United States. So Nippon and the U.S. Steel ownership came to a $14 million buyout agreement where Nippon Steel would become the majority owner.
$14 billion. I think you said million.
Okay, $14 billion where Nippon would become the majority owner of U.S. Steel. Now, U.S. Steel workers were not very happy about this. This is a unionized workforce. Now, they pushed back against this, and they were afraid it wasn't in their interest. They don't think, or they're afraid that Japanese ownership won't make good on prior existing agreements with U.S. Steel. And they also think that if they were to go into another bargaining contract, they would have less sway over Nippon because they are a foreign company and not domestically based.
I don't think it holds much water.
I don't think it holds much water either, man.
But it is politically critical.
And that's what the real fucking problem is here. Now, in Nippon, I want to give Nippon some credit at least. They said that they will abide by all previously made agreements, and they say that no layoffs would be coming. But that has not stopped the unionized workforce from being against this acquisition. So workers have urged politicians across the spectrum, Democrats and Republicans, to block the acquisition through national security concerns. Yeah. John Fetterman of Pennsylvania, J.D. Vance of Ohio, Donald Trump, Sherrod Brown, and now even Joe Biden have all come out against the acquisition. Joe Biden has said it is important that we maintain strong American steel companies powered by American steel workers. I told our steel workers I have their backs, and I mean it. U.S. Steel has been an iconic American steel company for more than a century, and it is vital for it to remain an American steel company that is domestically owned and operated.
Yeah.
I mean, this is... You go.
I was just going to say, I feel like important context here is that the U.S. Steelworkers Union has endorsed Biden. Mm-hmm. So him showing solidarity with them is hugely important, not just for the members of the union, but also for families in the general Western Pennsylvania area, which obviously is a huge swing state coming up in 2024, and where foreign ownership of U.S. Steel is wildly unpopular.
Yeah. I guess now we have to talk about why is it wildly unpopular. So Nippon Steel does own 9 facilities in China. They do own facilities in China, and this is the main national security concern that the union was citing. Nippon has actually put out a press release 2 days ago discussing these manufacturing plants they have in China, and they say that everything they do in China is far down the line on the value chain. None of the high-tech stuff that Nippon is doing is being done in China. Mm-hmm. They are also not investing in any new state-of-the-art activity that's going on in China.
Yeah.
So this is where the national security concern comes in. I don't think that there's much
I think
to it.
Well, the idea of the concern is U.S. expertise and American technology in steelmaking will be able to be transferred to China, and even to China's just knowledge base through this agreement. But we don't have anything to worry about because we're not on the front edge of the technology. Like we should be thinking about it as shooting ourselves in the foot for not accepting this help and the technological know-how that Nippon has.
Well, let's go into that because the United States does not produce as much steel as these other countries in the part of the world. 88% of electrical steel production, which is the most state-of-the-art, important steel production to be done anywhere in the world. Electrical steel is used to make electric vehicles. It's used to make transformers, which we have a shortage of.
Yes.
All of this is very important for the electrification of our economy.
Enormously
important. And so Greater China, Japan, and South Korea account for 88% of all electrical steel manufacturing in the world. Mm-hmm. So what this could do, if Nippon buys out U.S. Steel, and then starts investing in the United States, it can bring that electrical steel production to home.
Yes.
And what some S&P 500 analysts have suggested is that it could take the steel that we do produce in the United States and double its capacity. So 20% of the world's electrical steel could be produced in the United States.
Which is huge. And I feel like part of the idea that someone might get is, this Japanese company is more likely to offshore our steel production. But if that's the case, why are they buying the company here, right? If not for the infrastructure in America. And also, they are going to want steel making capacity here because the American market is one they want to access, and they want to insulate themselves from tariffs like the ones that the Trump administration levied on steel and that the Biden administration has maintained largely throughout his tenure. So
as someone who's not for tariffs for input goods, this is one of the positive outcomes of tariffs.
Yes.
This is someone onshoring, or like a foreign country investing in our economy to not have to pay tariffs.
Exactly.
That's what we should be wanting tariffs to accomplish.
This is the ideal situation.
So
for us.
It frustrates me with the steelworkers union that wants the tariffs so that things like this start happening, and the second these things start happening, they go, no, I actually don't want this. And what's frustrating is I don't even see how this benefits steel workers at all.
No.
For it to be U.S. ownership. If anything, as a workers, you want a company that's going to be in a better financial position because you can make more money.
Exactly.
You can bargain for more.
Exactly.
Because it's going to be such more of a successful corporation.
My only understanding of why the steelworkers union is against this is because they haven't had it signed, sealed, and delivered that their agreement with U.S. Steel will be upheld by Nippon. They want to have that done before they even come to the table. And I think Nippon is kind of like, well, that does nothing for us, right? Like, let's go to the table, let's figure it out, let's negotiate, and then we'll all be good.
And do I think that's wrong for Nippon? Slightly. I think Nippon should flat out agree to the U.S. Steel. I think they should. And I want them to do that.
Okay.
But if I had a pick between a fledgling U.S. steel company, right, versus Nippon, the fourth largest in the world, they're going to be able to bring so much more advanced technology into the United States.
Yeah.
There's no reason not to say yes to something like this at the end of the day.
And they're our closest ally, which I feel like we've just assumed, but I don't know if we've mentioned yet in this segment. Like, Japan is not China, right? Like Japan, there should be no worry about knowledge transfer or them trying to take advantage of this acquisition to decrease our accessibility to steel. If anything, we are Japan's biggest defense guarantor. They want to make sure we have all of the access to steel that we could possibly get.
Yep. And so what would also I want to talk about from a different perspective is a capitalist is a capitalist is a capitalist. Who cares if the capitalist is Japanese or American?
No, exactly.
Who really cares?
If anything, this is more kind of tilting us towards a Chinese governmental restriction on foreign direct investment.
Yeah.
Right? Like, this is what we criticize all the time. Yeah. This is the type of crackdown with no good reason for it.
Do you think it's xenophobic?
Yes.
I do too.
I think it's xenophobic, but the xenophobia is from the voters generally, like the Western Pennsylvanians, who just xenophobic, I guess, but maybe more patriotic. Like, to put a more positive spin on it. Yeah. It's more like U.S. Steel was pioneered by Andrew Carnegie, and it's a intricate part of this country's history. It's foundational to our spot in the Industrial Revolution. Right. It just feels right for it to remain an American company.
And it feels wrong for it to be owned by a Japanese company. Exactly. It does. It feels wrong. But what that tells me is that this type of decision by Biden is populism at its absolute worst. Right? This is the bottom of the barrel levels of populism. Policy that makes almost no sense and is pandering to some nationalistic fervor feeling that really has no bearing on policy outcomes.
Can I tell you what I really hope is going on?
Yeah, please.
What I actually tweeted earlier this morning is there's really I don't think there is a political downside to Biden taking this point of view. Because you're going to have the politically informed who take a close look at this decision, and maybe they're like us, and they're like, most of them probably are like, this makes no sense. It's a bad call. But the politically informed are also going to know that Trump has said the exact same thing. That he has the same opinion on it. And their opinion is less likely to be swayed by this one decision anyways.
Oh, for sure.
And then you've got the politically uninformed that might hear about this, and they're like, hoorah, American companies, American jobs, let's keep them. So I'm hoping he pushes it off.
Yeah.
Election happens. He just lets it go through.
Just lets it go through.
Just stops paying attention to it. He's like, yeah, doesn't do any press on it. Signs off on it.
He met with the Prime Minister of Japan today.
Yes.
And they're talking about this acquisition.
They
didn't even talk about it, huh?
The reporting says that it's not on the docket. It's not on the agenda for them. Yes.
Okay.
So I don't know.
Okay.
The one other thing I want to mention is you've talked before about how tariffs on like input goods are generally not good things. So I read a little bit about what studies say about what the Trump tariffs did specifically on steel, and there is evidence that it might have helped protect steel jobs. But I want you guys to think conceptually of, okay, protected the steel workers, but think of all of the things that use steel.
Yes.
Right? The EVs, the transformers, pretty much all cars, right? Anything, building materials, all of that got more expensive. All of that made it harder to produce more, harder for consumers to afford more. So tariffs are like almost like a shiny toy, where it's like American jobs. American jobs are the thing that is always talked about and evangelized by presidents and presidential candidates. But there's another level. There are secondary and tertiary effects to the decisions that ripple out and affect way more people than just that workforce that protects.
Right, and there are downstream jobs that get lost.
Exactly.
From the increased costs of steel. That don't get talked about because they're not as obviously related to the tariff.
Yep.
Right? It's not as one-to-one. And because it's not as one-to-one, it doesn't get as much coverage in the media. But those jobs get lost too.
Exactly.
And those are also American jobs.
No, it's legit. It's honestly, it's too removed
Yes.
to get covered in the media.
Exactly.
Yeah, which is kind of strategic for a politician.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.